The storm was raging like a beast, winds howling and rain lashing across the chopper's windshield, turning the world outside into a blur of gray and chaos. Inside the cockpit, one figure gripped the controls with steady hands, her heart pounding. But her focus razor sharp. She was a medic, trained to save lives, but nothing in her career had prepared her for a mission like this. 7 Marines were stranded, injured, and racing against time. And every second counted. Most people would have called it impossible. Even the most experienced pilots hesitated when the weather turned this violent, when the skies seemed determined to swallow anyone daring enough to fly. But she wasn't most people. Determined, fearless, and focused entirely on the lives depending on her. She made the call to go solo straight into the storm. Her name didn't appear on headlines yet, but the Marines she was flying to would never forget her. She wasn't just their Manook. She was their lifeline, their last hope in a situation that looked almost certain to end in tragedy. As the helicopter shuddered against the wind, lightning lit the sky, revealing jagged peaks and treacherous terrain below. Every second brought new danger. Every gust of wind tested her skills and courage. Back on base, her team watched the radar, holding their breath. Many doubted she would make it back. Yet there she was, cutting through the storm with precision, refusing to let fear take over. Each moment in the air was a test of nerve. Every maneuver a battle against nature itself. And just when it seemed she might actually reach the stranded Marines, a sudden shift in the storm threw her off course. The helicopter jolted violently, alarms blaring, and for a heartbeat the world seemed to hold its breath. Would she make it through? Could she bring all 7 Marines home safely? Or was this mission about to become a story of sacrifice instead of survival? The storm wasn't finished with her yet, and neither was the story. What happened next would shock everyone, because no one expected the courage, the skill, and the heart that would be tested in the skies above. She had always been the kind of person who thrived under pressure. Growing up, she watched her older brothers serve in the military and dreamed of being able to help people in the most critical moments. When she joined as a medic, she knew it wouldn't just be about bandages and first aid. It would be about life and death, split-second decisions, and facing dangers that most people couldn't even imagine. Yet nothing had tested her courage like this mission. The Marines she was heading toward weren't just names on a roster, they were friends. Brothers, men who had joked with her over late-night radio calls and shared stories of home in the middle of deployments. Each of them carried injuries that could get worse by the minute, and she carried the weight of knowing that if she faltered, their lives could end in the storm. The thought alone made her grip the controls tighter, every muscle in her body alert, every nerve straining against exhaustion and fear. She had flown through bad weather before, but this storm felt alive, almost as if it were testing her personally. Lightning split the sky, thunder shaking the cockpit, and visibility dropped to near zero. Her instruments beeped warnings, but she trusted her training, her instincts, and the countless hours spent mastering the helicopter under every imaginable condition. She was alone in the sky, but the lives of 7 Marines depended on her, and failure wasn't an option she could entertain. Behind her, the base was tense. Communications were sparse, and every lost signal made the seconds feel heavier. Every report of shifting winds and rising water only added to the pressure. Yet she kept going, focused on one thing, reaching her team. And as the storm seemed to grow even stronger, twisting and turning against her path, she knew the next few minutes would decide everything. Would she find them in time, or would the storm prove too much, even for someone as determined as her? Every mission had a story, but this one carried a weight she hadn't felt before. She thought of the moments that had led her here, the grueling training, the nights spent studying maps and weather patterns, the endless simulations of emergencies that might never happen. None of it compared to the real storm raging outside. Each gust a reminder that this wasn't a drill. She was truly alone, flying blind through chaos, with 7 lives hanging in the balance. The Marines she was headed to were scattered across a rocky ridge, caught in a flash flood that had turned the terrain into a maze of water and mud. She remembered their voices over the radio, strained but alive, calling for help. Each one carried a story, a family, dreams waiting back home. She couldn't let them down. Every second she thought about their faces, their trust in her. Her determination hardened like steel. Her mind flicked to the helicopter's controls, every dial and gauge glowing in the dim cockpit light. One wrong move, one misjudged gust, and everything could be over. The storm wasn't just a physical obstacle, was a test of every ounce of training, every instinct, and every heartbeat. She remembered her instructors warning her that fear was natural, but letting it control you was fatal. She pushed the fear aside, focusing only on the rhythm of the blades, the tilt of the rotor, and the faint outlines of the ridge through the sheets of rain below. The storm seemed to shift unpredictably, water carving new paths through the rocky terrain, trees bending and snapping under the pressure. She knew time was slipping away. The Marines were counting on her, but the sky wasn't giving any favors. Lightning struck nearby, momentarily blinding her and throwing the helicopter into a violent shake. She held on, eyes wide, muscles tight, knowing that the next minutes would be the hardest of her life. The question wasn't just if she would reach them, it was if she could survive long enough to get them all home. The wind was relentless now, battering the helicopter from every side, twisting the blades as if daring her to fail. Rain lashed against the cockpit with the force of small stones, and visibility dropped to almost nothing. The rocky ridge below was a jagged blur, a maze of danger that threatened to swallow her and the Marines she had sworn to save. Each second felt stretched, every heartbeat echoing in her chest like a drum of warning. She scanned the instruments again, eyes darting between warnings and shifting altitudes, but her mind was mostly on the Marines. They were out there, stranded, exhausted, injured, and relying entirely on her. One miscalculation, one sudden gust, and not only would she fail the mission, but she could also lose her own life. She gritted her teeth, adjusting the controls with precision born from years of training and a determination that refused to break. The radio crackled intermittently, barely audible over the roar of the storm. A voice came through, urgent, strained. "We're running out of time. The water's rising fast." Each word was a knife to her focus, but it sharpened her resolve. She had to get there. She had to find them before it was too late. Lightning split the sky again, illuminating the ridge for a brief second. She caught sight of a dark figure, motionless against the torrent, and her heart surged. There they were. But the helicopter jolted violently as the wind shifted again, nearly tossing her off course. She fought against it, muscles screaming, sweat and rain blurring her vision. The storm seemed alive, a force almost sentient in its ferocity, and every maneuver demanded perfection. Below, debris floated through the surging water, obstacles she had to navigate in real time. One wrong move, one hesitation, and the helicopter could crash. She leaned into the controls, lungs burning, mind laser-focused, every instinct screaming danger. The Marines were within reach, but getting to them would push her to the very edge of human endurance. The storm was closing in. The ridge was treacherous, and the seconds were slipping faster than she could count, just as she maneuvered closer to the stranded Marines. A new danger appeared out of nowhere. A sudden burst of wind slammed into the helicopter from the side, tilting it sharply and throwing her against the controls. The blades screamed, and the instruments flashed warnings she barely had time to register. Her heart raced. This wasn't just the storm anymore. Something about the ridge, the terrain, the shifting water had created unpredictable air currents she hadn't trained for. She fought to stabilize the helicopter. Sweat stinging her eyes, rain blurring her vision. The Marines were right there, so close she could almost see them. But the helicopter shuddered violently again, dangerously close to tipping. Every second felt like a lifetime, and every instinct screamed that the margin for error had vanished. If she didn't get control now, the mission would be over before it even began. Then came another shock. Through the fog and sheets of rain, she noticed movement along the ridge, not just the Marines struggling in the water, but something or someone else. A second group, unaccounted for, trapped in an even more precarious position. They were soldiers like the Marines, but she had no record of them being on this part of the ridge. Panic flared for a fraction of a second, but she pushed it down. This was no time to hesitate. The storm seemed to respond to every thought she had, as if it sensed her determination. Lightning struck closer than before, and a deafening clap of thunder shook the helicopter violently, throwing her off balance. She realized she now had to split her focus, reach the original 7 Marines while navigating toward this unexpected group. All while battling a storm that refused to give her a single break. Her mind raced, calculating the impossible lull to chew.